Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another retro adventure. The end of another week, and the end of another poll. We've got a very clear win for Mercurial for Shadowrun. Now as usual, I'll cover that on the desktop in a wee second, and I'll be back at the end of the video with some other poll related news and some other channel related news. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my Patreons, who this week I have been advised are making a list and they're checking it twice, which seems very seasonal of them, and very nice. Now, I'd like to thank them because they're wonderful people and they help support this channel, allowing me to do these videos. Now, if you'd like to join them and help support the channel, or you'd like to gain access to these videos a week early, or you'd like to gain access to one of the other levels of patronage, then the Patreon's linked to in the description down below. If you check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's have a look at Mercurial. So, this is Mercurial, although the front cover makes it appear that the full title is Mercurial in Concert at Underworld 93. But that's because this is a poster from within the adventure for one of the concerts the main character, Maria Mercurial, is in. In fact, it's where the players first encounter her. Now, this is a Shadowrun adventure, as it says, using the little branding stamp that they used on the first few adventures. It's by FASA, although they haven't put their logo on the front cover, and it's by Paul R. Hume. Although, instead of just saying by Paul R. Hume, as most adventures did later on, or just by whoever, they've gone with a Paul R. Hume presentation. I guess they're trying to keep in tone with the idea of it being a poster for a concert. But this was the first Shadowrun adventure I bought. Even though the catalogue number shows that it's the second one, it came out after DNA DOA. This was the very first one I got, and I find that it's a far better introduction to the Shadowrun world than DNA DOA. DNA DOA has a lot of iconic stuff. It's a fantastic adventure by Dave Arneson, and has so much of the tone of Shadowrun's early days, that while there are all these metahuman races, there's a lot of racism, there's a lot of disturbance in the world going on. Mercurial is far more of a standard cyberpunk adventure, but introducing you to it with the addition of the Shadowrun magic. So we've got introduction of various elements, and it takes you gently by the hand into the Shadowrun world from things which might be more familiar to you. And let's have a look at the back cover. So, a blast of light punches my eyes as I walk down the ramp from street level. The dance floor is an amorphous beast, writhing with 1,000 limbs, and the beat of the music redlines my pulse into overdrive. On the stage, Nova is dancing. Searing beams of the spotlights catch the mirror-bright metal arms, legs, and face, reflecting them back in a dazzling cascade of colour and light. The next thing you see is the hair flaring around golden in the glare, surrounding her face like a solar corona around their silver moon. While Maria Mercurial dances, nothing else matters. Of course, something else does matter. Biz, that's why you're here, chummer. To protect the Silver Lady with no past. The money's good, the job's easy, what could go wrong? Except maybe the lady's past is catching up to her. Mercurial is a Shadowrun adventure designed for gamesters who already have a copy of Shadowrun. Mercurial includes all of the information needed to introduce a party of Shadowrunners to the glamorous world of megahit rock stars, dreamchip addiction, sleazy talent agents, corp hitmen, toxic waste, and Yakuza sorceresses. A world where double dealing is an art form, nothing is quite what it seems. And that's what it's about. The players are being hired as bodyguards for the rock star Maria Mercurial. As I said, FASA Corporation, 1989. We've got a table of contents here. A prologue story, as so many Shadowrun adventures gave, an introductory story setting up the background of it, and then we're into the introduction. Now, there's notes here on games mastering, because this is one of the early adventures, and we've got an entire sidebar here about BTL chips, often called dreamchips, early on, which become a very firm part of the Shadowrun world. Now, the plot synopsis is very detailed. Maria Mercurial is a rock star, but she's one with no background. Her agent found her working as a prostitute. She didn't really remember any of her history, and she was addicted to better life dream chips. And he saw her talents. Beautiful lady, she was amazing at singing. So he took her to a clinic and got her weeded off the better than life chips. That process made her forget her background. The getting rid of the addiction also made her forget everything. And she has no idea where she came from. What it turns out is that she used to be the secretary for high up at As Technology. And he had her modified, which is why she has all this awesome cyberware, to have a large memory drive in her head. And he puts all sorts of things in there. And to keep her loyal, he addicted her to high quality, better than life chips. But like any addict, she lashed out one night. You can't really control people with drugs too well, they become far too erratic. And she murdered him and ran away. And that's where the agent eventually found her, where she'd run away to. She has 3 personalities, which we'll go into later. The Amazon, the Squamish, and the Innocent, because her personality is fragmented. Now, everybody kind of forgot about her. While As Technology knew who she was, and as soon as she became famous, perked up some interest in her because she's an ex-employee. But there was no point in going after her and causing all the disturbance, until the data stored in her head has come up in value. The data stored in her head includes stuff about As Technology doing toxic waste dumps in Seattle. Now, this is a very bad situation because toxic waste dumping is actually treated very, very seriously around the Native American nations' lands, and of course Seattle's right in the middle of those. Even though it's a United Canadian American States city, it's right in the middle of the native lands. So this would be massively embarrassing and massively costly for As Technology, so they want her. At the same time, an agent who has lines into Maria Mercurial is being blackmailed by the Yakuza, because the Yakuza are going to lose out on this deal, because the land that one of their subsidiary companies that they control is affected by this toxic waste. Now, they don't know Maria Mercurial's like that. They're just looking for a way of making profit out of this musical director, manager, and him having a megastar in his list of musicians would be very profitable, and he'd be able to pay them back. So there's 2 groups going after Maria, one to force her to go to a new agent, and one which is trying to get hold of her. So her current agent brings in the players to bodyguard her, because there's danger around. And that's where we enter the adventure. So getting into it. Well, first of all, you go to Underworld 93. You receive a call from the agent that he wants to meet up. And you've got various stuff where you're getting in past the bouncer. You're not going to be allowed to take heavy weapons in because it's a nightclub. You've got the Underworld 93, the nightclub. There's some digging around for information. It's got some lyrics in Maria's song because she's playing there. Got a map and key of it. One of the things I always loved about Shadowrun is how detailed they provided maps and layouts. So you can have lots more information. It's not just, oh, there's a club and there's an office. So the manager tells them about the situation, hires them, presumably, as long as they play it along. And they're now bodyguarding Maria Mercurial. There's a few situations. They can do some background digging, finding out more information. But then the club where she's playing is attacked. So we've got some combat, some stuff going on. We're backstage at Underworld 93. And the players are trying to save her life. They go on the run with her, breaking out of there, escaping into the streets. Going on the run with a megastar. And they have to hide out somewhere. So they go to ground in a renter hideout, just a place they can hide, or they can go to Maria's condo, so the apartment of a multi-millionaire-ess rock star. And whatever they decide, there is now a bounty out on her head and on theirs. So they do some digging to find out what's happening, but they'll have to be careful because everybody they speak to can profit off revealing their location. So we get them information on the leads, so they can go and find out more about the agent that's trying to hire her, and the connections to as technology. You know, they're sending sort of corporate ninjas after them. We've got a mage mercenary that's been sent after them, Yakuza soldiers, a situation where the players can get killed or hospitalized, very rare in first edition. A scene where they get introduced because one of the Aztechnology mercenaries that's been hired is teamed up with a dragon. So we're getting an introduction to not only magical characters, but actually dragons themselves. They're going up. There's Kyle Morgan, who's an international hitman, and Piranha. I'm not sure I'm going to be pronouncing that right at all. We've got information as they do some digging because they're up against a fragging dragon. More Yakuza goons digging around, going to the corporate systems, the Yakuza systems, digging for dirt to find out what's going on. Until eventually you get a rundown with the corporation as technology into the headquarters of the building, which has all the information in it, as well as Mercurial's head. Cause everything to go wrong. If Maria is not in the Dragon Knight's hands when the Shadowrunners corner Kyle Morgan, he will simply attack them all out, blazing away with a pistol. So we've got stats for Kyle Morgan here, a very 80s businessman-looking character, holding a knife for some reason, even when he doesn't have any knife in his gear and has no skill with a knife. We've got Piranha. That sounds more like how it probably should be pronounced. The dragon who usually goes around in human form, again looking like a corporate dude, but is a shapeshifted dragon. And we've got some other characters here from throughout, including the stats for Maria Mercurial, with her personality. When she's an Amazon, she is filled with energy to the point of being in a rage. She will actually pull a gun fight in this mode. She is very destructive. Aggressive, rather. The schoolmistress, where she is quiet and withdrawn. She usually does her writing in that, but she will withdraw if there's violence around her. And there's the innocent, an almost childish version of herself, where she's looking for more information. And I've got a very nice black and white stippled image of Maria Mercurial. Max Foley, the agent that hires them. Armando Hernandez, who is the agent that's trying to get control of her. And we've got the wrapping up of it. You know, how do they deal with it? Have they revealed the information that Maria has? Did they discover about it and cause Aztechnology a lot of embarrassment? Did they pass it over? Did they make it all pointless anyway? How did they deal with it? Maybe they've handed her over for the cash. A newspaper article where somebody's interviewing Maria, has background information, lyrics to one of her songs, and various newspaper articles talking about things. If Maria is re-addicted to dreamchips, give the players this one. If the bad guy's plan works and they've murdered Maria and Armando, this one. So much for the doom and gloom. If the adventure ends happily with Maria and Hernandez alive and the plot of the bad guys foiled, give the following news item to the players. So the dumping scandal rocks troubled company and star and manager in reconciliation, and then some. And we've got a handout telling them about dreamchips, basically the sidebar for earlier in the adventure, and a poster different to the front cover, Maria Mercurial in concert, May 23. And that is it. Now, as I said, it's a very nice introduction to Shadowrun, because it's cyberpunk but with Shadowrun tones to it. So it's all about a rocker girl who needs rescuing. She's got caught up in corporate schemes. She's got data stored in her head, very Johnny mnemonic, tones to it, where she has data stored in her head that she doesn't have access to, that people want a hold of and will kill her to get. It's all that kind of things which are very familiar, but with the Shadowrun tones where there's magic wrapped up in it. There's all the political stuff with the Native American nations, causing it to be very different to Cyberpunk, where it would be far more corporate. And finally, you've got the players going up against a dragon. Not trying to fight it, but trying to talk it down, because it's going to be pretty dangerous. Very good introductory adventure to Shadowrun, and I don't think it's gone too much out of date. Obviously, you'd have to update some of the dates of concerts and things to a later year, but itself, it's not much different. It doesn't include anything which is too stuck in the 2050 time period when it was written. So that was Mercurial, and that won the poll this week with some 36% of the vote. Ahead of everything else, because in second place was Secrets of the Caesar Run on 29%, in third place was K for Dawn for 2300 AD on 19%, in fourth place was Gentleman's Agreement for Spycraft on only 11%, and way behind everything else was The Key of Deliriad on only 5% for Slay Industries. Which is kind of sad because that's my local game. It was written only sort of 20-25 miles in that direction, so it would have been fun to cover it, but alas, not this time. Now, as usual, they're all cleared out of the poll, but this time I'm going to do something a bit different, because the poll we're entering into is for the video which will be released on Christmas Day this year. We're getting to that point of the year already, and on the Monday of that week, my standard video will be released on the 25th, so I decided to go a bit odd. So first up, we've got a really old role-playing game, Bunnies and Burrows, from 1976 from Fantasy Games Unlimited. Now this is basically Watership Down, the role-playing game, where you play a rabbit surviving in the countryside. It's a very interesting idea. Obviously, Watership Down was an absolute massive movie at the time, and you can kind of get how a fantasy connection comes in there, but it does seem a bit random. But not as random as second place, or second choice, which is Dallas the television role-playing game. Now, Dallas was a TV series about Texas oil barons, and this role-playing game is based on that, where you are being an oil baron and the stories are broken down into episodes. Completely bizarre this got a role-playing game when so many games did, or so many TV series which were far bigger didn't. But this got a role-playing game made of it. Let's have a look if it wins. The third option is the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe RPG from FASA in 1985. Now, while it doesn't surprise me that He-Man would get a role-playing game made out of it at some point, the fact that in 1985 FASA, who were also licensing and producing the Star Trek and Doctor Who role-playing games, released it before they went on to do things like Shadowrun and Earthdawn. This is a big role-playing company who did a kids' TV cartoon role-playing game. It seems a bit of a surprise, but when you have a look more into it, it is a bit more of a board game. It's more like Hero Quest or these introductory to role-playing type games. So it'd be interesting to have a look at. And the last two options are actually Satanic Panic videos. So first up, we've got a movie, Skullduggery, from 1983. Now this is a movie where a player in a Dungeons & Dragons campaign gets affected by an ancient Irish curse and becomes a serial killer. Very bizarre, part of the Satanic Panic, kind of like Mazes and Monsters, but this seemed even odder. And finally, we've got a piece from another British TV show. The BBC one that I covered a few weeks ago went down very well with viewers, and this is from Good Morning Britain. So it's a nice, fluffy, breakfast time TV show talking about Dungeons & Dragons and introducing people to it in 1983. And before I go, I'd just like to remind you that I've got booklets for sale on DriveThruRPG. There'll be a link in the description down below. This week I have been releasing books of monsters. You know, bloodthirsty monsters, ghostly monsters, supernatural monsters, and mutated animal monsters. But I've been releasing them in three formats. One for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, one for Shadowdark, and one for Dragonbane. Now, while Shadowdark and 5th edition are fairly similar, they're very... Shadowdark's obviously very derivative of Dungeons & Dragons rules. Dragonbane's very different, and it's a lot of fun converting stuff across and coming up with brand new attacks and descriptions of those for that system. It's been a lot of fun to add these. Now, obviously, as well as being for sale on DriveThruRPG, they are available for patrons on a shared Google Drive, for librarians and layered status patrons. So if you're interested in becoming that, there'll be a link to the Patreon in the description down below, as well as a link to my DriveThruRPG store. And over on RPGgamer.org, well, I'm still working my way through the Young Jedi Adventures. I think this is going to take me up close to the end of the year, because there are so many episodes of this. I'm up to episode 36 at the moment. Absolutely massive, these little kids' stories, which are quite fun to cover and new stuff to add to the side. But anyway, as usual, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.